Hey everybody, hey, good morning. My name is Darius Anucauskas and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com. Look, today is Monday, the last week of November. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Let's dive back into the markets because there are a few things moving here and there. So all about all that and a little bit more in the session today. Right now, do not tune out. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'll see you in a bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and good morning. My name is Darius Anucauskas and I'm the Chief Market Analyst here at Markets.com. Look, today is Monday. Today is the last week of November, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope November so far has been a good one for you. In general, like I said, there was a lot of things happening. There were a lot of things happening. The stock market was kind of in shambles in a way, but in general, I would say the market was kind of logical this time, in my opinion, in this month. Of course, we still have November to go through, don't get me wrong. There is still a lot of things up in the air, but hey, we'll look into the charts, we'll look at what's happening, certainly. But before we go any further, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest. In the meantime, I will put my usual good morning in the chat room. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Yes, good morning, everyone. Also just before we go any further, as always, just a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. Also, if you click on the Learn section here and then you go into Webinars, it'll take you to the page where you can see my webinar coming up on the 26th of November. So this week on Wednesday, feel free to register because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up on another strong indicator or a charting tool that the traders use, and again we'll apply it in real live market action. So we'll do some live trades based on that tool to see if it's any good, if you can actually trade using that tool. So that's of course going to be done on a demo account because again we need to practice first before we go in, but of course the market activity will be live, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, like I said, check it out. Also you can find the link in the description of this webinar as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at what's happening with the economic calendar. So, just very quickly, the things that we're watching out this week. Now, basically, from the UK side, we have the UK budget coming up. So that's going to be on Wednesday. This is something for you to, if you're trading the British pound or the FTSE 100, then certainly something to keep in mind. So the autumn budget is coming up, and it's going to be a big deal. Let's see, if we can actually put it this way. In terms of economic data, other economic data. Now, from every, like on Monday, from the EU, we have a few speeches here and there, but then the Chicago Fed National Activity Index, probably that's the maybe, I don't know, the more the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. That's going to be the more moving event. I'm just typing in. I'm trying to open up the BLS here, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, to see what's happening here. So the PPIs should be coming out on Tuesday. Let's have a look if that's actually in line with our calendar. There we go. Yep, there we're seeing that the PPIs are about to come out on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll get those. At the moment, the expectation for a headline year-on-year to increase by 0.1%. The core PPI, we don't have a forecast. Okay, that's fine. But and then yeah, if you remember, on Thursday the U.S. markets are going to be closed because of Thanksgiving. That they're going to be celebrating their celebration. The U.S. market will be closed today. The Japanese market is closed. I think they're celebrating Workers' Day. Let me just double check. Yep, Workers' Day. Now, so yeah, there, like I said, this week is going to be a short one. Then on Friday, I think the U.S. market is going to have a short day, this short trading day. Let me just confirm that very quickly with you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, so it's going to be a shortened day on the 28th of November. So it's Black Friday. So hey, check it out. Check it out. I mean, like I said, don't really place way too many trades because, again, the volatility might not just be there. Be very careful in that. Anyway, so yeah, coming back to the economic calendar. So the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index, we're not really we really don't have any forecast available here. Let's go into Tuesday. On the Tuesday side, ADP employment change weekly. Now that's going to be an important figure because look, somehow this ADP now is taking the spotlight basically because it's being consistent. You know, we can only rely on ADP right now because again the non-farm payrolls are kind of all over the place. I talked about it last week a lot. Also, anything what's coming from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics from the U.S. is kind of questionable right now. So it will require time until the market can trust that data again. Now, like I said, the Tuesday. Why is it on Tuesday here? Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, sorry. PPI is on Tuesday coming out, so keep that in mind. House price index also coming out. Business inventories, CB consumer confidence. All this is on the calendar. All this is on the calendar. Let's see if if and how it comes out. Wednesday, going into Wednesday, Australia, there we go. CPI figures are inflation numbers from Australia coming out. So if you are trading something Australian related, keep your eyes on that. But probably very important is going to be this little decision here, where the RBNZ is expected to cut rates by 25 basis points. Now let me just double check something here very quickly. I want to see how much they have cut already this year. Now, okay, so from the beginning of this year, we can see that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 cuts already done. So this is going to be the 6th one. The next meeting after Wednesday should be on the 18th. On the 18th of oh no no sorry on the 18th, but February. So this is the last meeting from the RBNZ apparently, according to the calendar here. So this is the last meeting. So they have done 5 cuts already. So yeah, well, let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cuts from the beginning of this year. So we started off with 4.25%, and in October, we saw a cut of 50 basis points. So the central bank, the committee officials there continue to cut, continue to be a little bit more on the dovish side. They're really trying to stimulate the economy, but again, we understand that there's a lack of demand, and this is what they're trying to do. Inflation in New Zealand. Let's have a look at that one. Inflation in New Zealand is at around 3%. So that's basically yes, it continues to rise. We get the quarterly numbers. The Q3 came out in October actually. So the quarterly inflation numbers, the latest one was at 3%. So now the next one will be probably getting in January sometime. January, maybe February. We'll see how that comes out. But yeah, but certainly. For those who are trading the New Zealand dollar, and I do kind of like that that currency, or all the pairs where the New Zealand dollar is. I think that it's quite technical, and so if you are, like I said, keeping an eye on the New Zealand dollar, then keep your eyes on the interest rate decisions. Where, like I said, we are expecting a rate cut, meaning that there is potentially some weakness kicking into the New Zealand dollar. If, like I said, we see them going through the going through with the cut. So yes, we could expect, like I said, the New Zealand dollar devaluating against its major currencies. Let's see how that's going to play out, of course. Now, going further into the day. So yes, the autumn budget, the UK's autumn budget is coming up. So this is going to be very important. This is something that the British market participants, are keeping an eye on. And the main agenda there is like that we're going to see some rate, not rate, but some tax increases, income tax increases. So. Not very popular with the public, of course, and this is kind of going against what they have kind of went into, the voting, into the election, sorry. Because they kind of said that they're not going to, increase taxes, but now it's, they're saying that it's a measure that needs to be taken, and it's something, that all the big words, honestly, like when I was listening to the little kind of presentation by Rachel Reeves back in the beginning of November. I don't know why they decided to do such a thing, just maybe to warm up the public. I'm assuming that's the only thing that I can explain, how I can explain it, to warm up the public so that they would be prepared that what's happening and blah, 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 so it wouldn't be like a shock. And I think that they were more afraid of the market reaction, because again, this is something that they went into the elections, trying and had the agenda that they're not going to go with interest rate. What am I talking about? Thinking about central banks, income tax rises. So yes, this is, like I said, this is a big deal for UK. And it's like I said, it's very interesting how the market will react. And certainly at the moment, I would strongly recommend that you guys, look, if you have like a big, stop loss or something, then okay, congratulations, you can do whatever you want. But look, if you're normally trading, like scalping, and you probably, the most important is, like I said, have your risk management, and please do not hold positions like, let the autumn budget come out, see the initial reaction, and then kind of adjust accordingly. But again, I do understand that volatility presents opportunities, but at the same time, it can take a lot of your money away. Oh, my head is hurting today, honestly. I think it's the weather getting older. Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday. Okay, nothing major here. GfK consumer confidence. Yep, that's something to keep in mind. Certainly, yep, we're watching this one. What else? Consumer confidence, industrial. Okay, from the European zone, consumer confidence. Yep, that's what's happening. Let's see how that's going to play out. And Friday we have a bit of a data drop kind of from Japan. So they're going to be releasing the unemployment, inflation, industrial production, retail sales. So yeah, there we go. You can see yourselves. So keep that in mind. Housing numbers. So it's going to be. So if you are trading something Japanese related, keep your eyes on Friday as well. And going into going in further into Friday. Yeah, not much, to be honest. It's a lot of German and European data. We're seeing, yes, some inflation numbers here from the different Bundesrepubliks of Germany, and nothing, like I said, nothing major there. Okay, Canada's GDP, yes, and you can see that basically the US is kind of absent because again they're going to have a shortened day. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at the charts. Let's see how we can position ourselves this week. Like I said, it's an interesting one. Could be a volatile one because maybe we'll see some news, some talks about the interest rate decision, which is coming up in December by the Federal Reserve. Look. I'll pick up on that one when I'll jump into the U.S. indices. Now look, Nikkei 225. Yes, we're not trading today. We're just seeing this one. It finished on Friday, like right here. But certainly the 48,235 zone, this is what I'm watching. This is the current lowest point of November. A nice good clearance of that one, and a drop below the 50-day EMA shown as the green line here. Yep, could attract a few more sellers into the game. Now, if we are looking at the upside scenario, a break of this downside line taken from the highest point of November could attract more buyers. So if we do get a nice break of this downside line, wonderful. Yep, I will consider a few more buyers stepping in here, especially if we can see a push back above the 50,000 kind of 600 zone-ish. Yep, if we can get that, wonderful, great. I'm going to consider some upside. But at the moment, I cannot really say that the upside scenario is my preferred one. But certainly, yes, the downside scenario is the one that is kind of looking a little bit more attractive. That said, a clearance is needed. Shanghai Composite, there we go, we stabilized a little bit, but still, there is a chance for a drift further south. Now, look, China stabilized, maybe because they're going to get some chips from NVIDIA, because from what I've read, basically, that look, there is currently a push by NVIDIA to try to, get the ban lifted by the U.S. government for NVIDIA to sell their one of the most sophisticated chips into China. So, which is apparently called H200. Not because at the moment I think they're selling from what I heard, they're selling this H20, and now they want to sell H200. Anyway, look, the whole point is I think maybe this is going to be the big news from the US, right? Apart from the PPIs, maybe this is going to be that big market moving thing that could, let's say, help the stock market push back up again. And maybe it could drag Shanghai Composite after it. Now, look, what I want to really do here is I want to get rid of all the drawings and start fresh. And I think that this is a little bit better this way because, again, I think the chart before was a little bit too noisy. So let's put it this way. If we do push back above that little hurdle here, and this 3,922, then I will consider a little bit of a move back up. I think it's a good area of resistance to keep in mind because previously it was a good area of support. We kind of tested that area a few times, struggled to break below it, and then we broke through it eventually on Friday, and there we go. That's all is good, But if we do climb back above the 3,922, and we at the same time we will also push above the 50-day EMA shown as the green line here. This all could all the stars could align, and we could see a nice move back up again. At the same time, and that's why, like I said, that's why I'm putting a little bit more emphasis on this little hurdle, because at the same time, we could break this little short-term downside line. Tentative, yes, I get it, it is. However, are we trying to find some sort of logic here anywhere? Yes, we are. So I think that this is kind of becoming like a little bit of a more logical approach here, So yeah, if we do remain below the 50-day EMA or the downside line here, then yeah, I'm going to continue targeting the downside. So any kind of push higher could be classed as a little retracement before another leg of selling. Now, Dow Jones Industrial Average, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, like I said, US is closed on Thursday. Friday they have a shortened day, so basically all the activity could come on, from Monday to Wednesday. And Tuesday we have the PPIs, which is quite important. And at the moment we're watching this very, very carefully. One thing I have to say here is that we had an interesting trading activity on last week. We traveled lower, we were selling off. The market was kind of really enjoying logic and common sense coming back, or at least maybe I was enjoying logic and common sense kind of hitting the market again, this little activity, on Friday we saw a rebound here, push back up. Let me just double check the the final score. Yes, the Dow kind of ended with the 1% gain. Actually, Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P were around the 1%. Russell actually almost 3% hit. Not bad, not bad. So I think that the positivity started coming through again because of, on I think it was Williams on Friday who started talking that, what, I think the rate cut is not off the table. And you know if you watched my sessions earlier, and in the beginning of the month, we had a situation where we were basically high up here. We were expecting the rate cut, but then the market started getting fearful. Why do we need a cut? Blah, blah, blah. And you had some officials coming out saying, maybe it's too much. So, look, I said to you then, and I'll say it again. Initially, yes, we were expecting a cut. After the last meeting, we were expecting a cut. Again, then I said that, look, something will happen that they will start saying, maybe we don't need a cut, and then blah, 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 is going to decline. And then I said, look, eventually, at the end of the day, they will do a cut. It's just that they need to create this market kind of moment here or something, this market manipulation that, we needed to see the stocks kind of drifting back down. We needed to see NVIDIA selling off a little bit so that we could go back into the NVIDIA and purchase it. And this is not like invitation. I'm just like talking, from the perspective that what they wanted us probably to do, so they wanted us to go and buy NVIDIA because this week, most likely, we'll get an approval that NVIDIA is able to sell their H200 chips to China, and congratulations, NVIDIA stock rallies again. So, this is like on Friday. Look at this. I mean, this is on Thursday we got this, on Friday we got that, and it stabilized around that 180 zone. NVIDIA right now is trading. Let me just double check. NVIDIA right now is trading at around 181. So basically we're back above this highlighted zone. So this is very interesting. Like I said, very, very interesting. It's, do we want to say market manipulation? Well, we cannot really, but, it certainly feels like one. So that's what I'm saying. So, we got all the talk. Everybody was, like I said, initially like, yes, we need a cut. The market was kind of positive. Then in the middle of November, for 2 weeks, everybody's talking like how we're not going to get a cut. The market gets fearful, and now we're seeing the stock market kind of pushing, trying to make its way back up. Dow right now is trading at around 46,420, 730 zone, basically on the cash index. We're above where we closed on Friday, so we're kind of somewhere around here, actually a little bit below this hurdle, this 46,495, or we can round it up here, 46,500. If we do clear it, we'll jump back above the 50-day EMA. So in a way, there is a good chance of doing that. Just like I said, given that we don't have much news, we'll see how the PPIs come out. Again, I'll repeat myself. I'm not really going to trust the PPIs that much. Why? Because it's the data that they were in government shutdown. So how can we talk about accuracy in there? No, we cannot really. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why there is a little bit of a problem with the PPI. So maybe the market will actually also kind of shrug off the whole PPI thing and just focus on what's going to happen with NVIDIA, what's going to happen in general in the corporate world. If we're going to get any more AI news, because that's the driving force right now. So in terms of corporate earnings, let me just quickly double check earnings for this week. Do we have any major companies? Dell Tech, Autodesk, Workday, HP, and that's all on Tuesday. Monday, nothing. Yeah, and only on Wednesday we have the Deere company. So actually, Best Buy as well. Then Best Buy, NetApp aren't coming out on Tuesday, but on Wednesday the big one is Deere and Company. The agricultural business, basically the company that sells a lot of tractors. Let's have a look. I do like this company in general. Everything what relates to agriculture, I do like. However, would I buy it right now? No, not really. I think again, it's you need to do a little bit more analysis on this, because again, we need to see how are the orders coming through. If there's if there are enough subsidies for the farmers, then the farmers have more money to get the inventory. So this is where the Deere company comes in. Again, a lot of factors. So it's not really as straightforward as it sounds. So yeah, coming back to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Look, what I'm going to do here is, if we're going to push back above the 46,500 zone, I'm going to go to the upside. At the moment, the fact that we're expecting a rate cut again, because the probability now is back to normal. Look, there could be things happening, and I think that you need to take everything with a pinch of salt. So just be careful. The S&P 500, the downside scenario. Sorry, very straightforward. Drop below the 100-day EMA. Period. That's what I need. A drop below the last week's low. A drop below. At the same time, we will fall below the 100-day EMA, potentially attracting more sellers into the game. S&P 500, very quickly, the same story for the downside. A drop below the 100-day EMA. On my chart, it's around 6,528. If we can get that move, great. I'll go lower. For the upside. Okay, for the upside, I need to see a push back above this upside line, which is a tentative one. Don't get me wrong; it's not really the most, the best example of an upside line. No, but it kind of coincides nicely with my 50-day EMA. So if I'm trying to find some sort of logic here, okay, we can start looking at some higher levels from here, 6,631. But then we have this obstacle of the 50-day EMA. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why I prefer a breakthrough this area instead. Nasdaq, very quickly, of course. Look, the big loser last week was Nasdaq. In general, look at 3 weeks in a row we have been declining. This month's candle looks like this so far. The daily chart looks like that. So we're resting on the 100-day EMA. If we do fall below it, great. I'm going to go lower. But if we don't, look. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna wait for a push back above the 50-day EMA. I think that this is the better option, and I think that this is what we would need to kind of stick to instead. Again, or at least that's from my side. So let's see what's gonna happen. Right now, the Nasdaq Cash Index is trading around. Let me just double check. It is trading around 24,470. So basically, we're actually around here. This is an interesting area. We're basically around here. So look, if we do climb back above the 24,500, yes, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards the upside. But then again, I have to accept the fact that there is a 50-day EMA here on the way, which could be in our way. Let's jump into the German DAX, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, beautiful rebound. So far, so good. So I need to put this right here. So I need to keep an eye on the 200-day EMA. So look, DAX has not been below the 200-day EMA since April. That's the big crash we saw when the big board with tariffs came out in the hands of the U.S. leader. So look, once again, I will say the same thing what I said on Friday. If we do remain somehow below the 200-day EMA, maybe let's say at the end of this month, then yeah, great, more sellers here could join in. But in general, for now, we're seeing a little bit of retracement. This downside line, which I've drawn previously, it was good initially. It was a tentative one, of course, but now I think I need to draw it this way. So yeah, it's if we do kind of push back, okay, wait just a second, a few adjustments have to be made here. I think it's not this one. It's going to be, no, it's going to be around here somewhere. If we do climb back above the 23,529.30 zone somewhere here, then yes, I'm going to consider a move to the upside. Let's jump into the FTSE. Of course, we're watching the FTSE very, very carefully this week, especially on Wednesday. So yep, keep your eyes on that one. But from the technical perspective, I need to see another drop below the 50-day EMA in order to consider the downside again. But for the upside, a push above the 9,610 zone right here, yep, could attract more buyers here, and basically more, yeah, we could see a push higher. However, I'm not really in a rush. I'm gonna just consider. I'm just gonna consider the downside scenario for now, but the upside, yeah, I'm gonna be very careful at this point. DXY. So I talked about this one last week as well. So look, I mean, a nice little technical structure building up here. We could be seeing a nice ascending triangle pattern according to all the TA rules. Such patterns tend to break to the upside. However, a confirmation break of the upper side is needed. Once we get that, if we get that, a push above the 100.36 zone, yep, great. I'm gonna consider some higher levels, potentially even aiming maybe for the 102 zone right there. If we do clear this upside line taken from the low of the 24th of September, I'm gonna consider a move lower. Let's have a quick look at VIX. What's happening with VIX? I think that we could see actually this one drifting back down. I think it was a good run. Now I think it's easing off a little bit. Let's jump into the currency world, ladies and gentlemen. AUDUSD. So yes, inflation. Like I said, inflation. Australian inflation. Where's that? That's kind of happening on Wednesday. So keep that in mind. Like I said, at the moment, the year-on-year number is expected to. Actually, there's no expectation. There is no expectation. Let me just double check another source if I can see some sort of data for that. So this week, let's have a look at this week. So Wednesday, inflation numbers. Okay, so we're expecting a little bit of a decline actually on the year-on-year front. On the month-on-month front, wow, we're expecting from a 1.3 to somewhere around plus 0.3. Is that correct? 0.2. Sorry, the wrong. So from plus 1.3 to plus 0.2. Wow, on a month-on-month basis. Okay, let's see how that's going to play out, of course. But at the moment, certainly, we're watching inflation numbers, and that will probably determine the Australian central bank's further decisions. And if we see inflation kind of easing off, then yeah, we could see the RBA potentially going in with more rate cuts. Again, it's a big if. There's still a lot of criteria. Currently, their interest rate sits around 3.6. They did have a good kind of cutting spree this year. So how many times? 1, 2, 3. 3 times they've cut actually. I mean less than New Zealand, but New Zealand needs it because the economy is a little bit smaller and it needs a little bit more help. Okay, so going back to this situation here, look, from the technical perspective, after we broke the upside line here, I would say this way, as long as we stay below it, I'm going to continue targeting the downside, because as I said, my target, next target is the 0.6415, and then if that gets cleared, 0.6344. AUDNZD, one of my favorite ones. So this one, after kind of having this great breakout here, pushed higher. So I will say this way: for now we're resting on near this 1.1490 zone. If we do clear it and we clear the 20-day SMA here within the Bollinger Bands, then yes, I'm going to go lower. AUDJPY. The problem here is, like I said, what I said to you on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, because of what I said, that although the stock market seems to be weak, our risk-on and risk-off environment monitor, AUDJPY, is not been selling off that rapidly, and on the contrary, it was kind of holding flat. So that kind of gave us an indication that maybe the upside scenario in equities is not we're not done with that. And I did say the same thing on one of my reels. You can follow on Instagram. You can follow my professional page. You can follow Markets.com, where I threw out a little reels where I kind of said that that look, yes, we are seeing declines, you know, strong declines, but don't rush into those sells yet, because yeah, it's not as simple as it seems. Anyway, NZD, yep, so keeping an eye on this one. We're expecting a rate cut, so that means that we could see some weakness in New Zealand dollar, unless we're done with the weakness already. So you know what, actually, I think the better option here, I would like to draw a downside line, but I think that the better option here is maybe to wait for a push somewhere above this territory, actually, because again, the 0.56, 80, 83, 91 zone here, yep, that's something to keep in mind. So yep, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for some lower levels, a drop below the 0.5580 zone here is needed. So if we can get that move, amazing, great. I'll go for some further declines. But again, you know, the further declines could be limited to this area somewhere here. I think that this is what we need to keep an eye on. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into EURUSD. We're seeing some sort of like weird action here. Look, I'm gonna say it this way. I'm approaching this one from a very simple side. A push above the 1.1650, I'll go higher. A break below the 1.1470 zone here, I will go a little bit to the downside. Very straightforward. I'm not really gonna do much like, you know, analyzing here. I think I'll allow this pair to walk around here. Once it starts clearing one of the sides, then I'll consider the next short-term directional move. But then again, even then, I would need to see the body of the daily candle staying outside of this little range here, and then I will consider, like I said, the next big move. EURUSDJPY pushing nicely to the upside, breaking the downside line. So we are very close to testing this area, the 0.9326. A nice good clearance of that could attract more buyers. Yep, keep your eyes on that. The downside scenario, yes, I said it before and I'll say it again. This was a good area and still is. This area is roughly between the 0.9211 and 0.9224. A nice good drop back below this could attract a few more sellers. I do understand we have moved away from this area, but hey, let's not rush into conclusions for now. EUROJPY, this one, like I said, this one is still holding on. It seems like it wants to go higher. Look, I'll say it this way: from the very short-term perspective, if we do remain above the 180 zone, I will continue targeting the upside. A drop below the 180, I will consider it a little bit of a move to the downside. Let's jump into GBP, of course. GBP, the big one this week. It still looks negative. It's still trading below the downside line, and also it is. Look, the 1.30. That's what I'm keeping an eye on. The 1.30. If we do clear it, I'll go lower. If we can get that, you know, we can get that breakout below the 1.3015, maybe even. Yep, more sellers here could join in. On the upside, a push above the downside line, a push above the 1.3191 could attract more buyers. GBPCAD, okay, this one's interesting. We're kind of flat-ish, somewhat like forming something like a flag here or something like that. Could be the case. Yep, yeah, something like this basically. So if we can get a clearance through one of the sides, then yes, great, wonderful, more, you know, we'll consider the next short-term directional move. GBPJPY, this one is still bouncing around here, but look, I will update the chart a little bit. So if we do fall below this 204.24 area, I will consider a move lower. For now, the upside scenario is not off the table. GBPNZD, one of my favorite ones. There we go. Look at this. This 2.33 and a half zone, kind of 2.33 zone, is actually providing strong resistance. So as long as it stays below this hurdle, there is a chance of a drift back down. The only thing is that what I would prefer is to still wait for a break below this steep upside line. If we can get that, great, wonderful. More sellers here could join in. For the upside, I would prefer to see a push I would prefer to see a push above the 2.35 zone here. If we can get that, great. A forthcoming higher high will be confirmed. USDCAD, ladies and gentlemen, we are near a key area of resistance. I talked about this. I said that if we do pop above the 1.4062, my next target is the 1.4140 tick. Not exactly the test of that area, of that level, but it's the area. I kind of said this before, and I'll say it again. It's never the exact level. It's always the area around that level. So keep that in mind. So now at this point, if you're looking for some higher levels, then wait for a push above the 1.4140 zone. USDJPY. Look, USDJPY right now is retracing. It's fine. It's all okay. I think that maybe we could see a little bit of a retracement, a larger correction back down. But as long as we stay above the steep upside line taken from the low of the 1st of October, I will continue targeting the upside. A break below it, yep, could open the door to some lower levels. USDCHF, similarly as EUROCHF, just continues to push, continues to push higher. And we're approaching that 0.8124. I talked about this. I said, look, if we do break the downside line, my next target is around here. There we go. Everything is working out nicely. Gold. Looking at gold, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at gold here. Okay, given that we have the bets of seeing an interest rate cut in December, this is already back at the table, right? So in a way, gold can actually pick up the pace again. Unless we suddenly see the Fed officials starting to talk again that maybe we do not need a rate cut. I don't know, honestly, it's a big show that we're watching. But like I said, for now, if we stick to what we've got, then certainly yes, the idea is that if we do continue to see that the probability on the higher side for a rate cut, then yes, rebound here back up could be possible. Similarly with silver, which is currently near this upside line. It seems like it wants to rebound, but you know what, I'll probably get a little bit more comfortable with the upside if we do push back above the 52 territory right here. If we do climb back above it, I'll consider maybe a larger move back up, maybe to the current all-time high. Platinum rebounding, okay, still not giving up. While we remain in here, I'm not really touching it. Palladium also rebounding from the 1,350 zone, so we're just a little bit below the psychological 1,400 zone. So if we do clear it, I'll go higher. Copper, yes, bouncing back up again. The market sentiment turning to more of a risk-on one. So commodities are gaining here, and copper is one of those. Because again, if we do see interest rates coming back down, then it kind of leads to this idea that higher production will be seen, and this is where demand for copper will come back. So yeah, all this is all connected as always. Sugar, look, we're oscillating around that 14.74 territory. So as long as we stay above that area, I will continue targeting the upside. Simple as that. WTI oil, beautifully drifted lower, testing the upside line right here, which is taken from the low of the 9th of April. And what I said to you, that this is going to be my target if we do fall back below the $60 mark. There we go. Mission accomplished. I would say mission accomplished. We can get rid of this arrow here. And now the question is, can we break this upside line? If we can, great. I'm going to go lower. But if we cannot, if we can rebound back up here and we can clear this steeper downside line taken from the high of the 23rd of June, then yes, great. I'll consider a move higher. A little bit of a move higher, not much. Natural gas is trying to fight. Yes, so far so good. Remained above this kind of 20-day SMA, the one at this upside line. So in a way, all pointing nicely to the upside. But I'll take a very conservative approach here, and I'll wait for a push above the 4.69 zone right here, and I'll go higher. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, for dessert, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is rebounding beautifully from this area. Look, I talked about the 38.2 on my Fibonacci retracement, and this is drawn from the from here. Actually, let me just put this on the chart. So this is drawn from the lowest point of 2022 to the current all-time high. So this Fibonacci retracement, we tested the 38.2 around the 84 zone. Just we dropped, of course, below it a little bit more, and now we're, like I said, this is becoming quite an important area of support right here. I think I'm gonna stick to that. I think I'm gonna keep an eye on this little hurdle, and I think it makes sense. So if we do clear this 83 territory, I'm gonna lean towards the downside, towards that 74,500 zone. Bitcoin Cash. Now this one is an animal. Honestly, I love it. It's amazing. Bitcoin Cash. Where is it? There we go. Look at this. Look at this rebound. Initially, we were below this upside line, basically below the lower side of the triangle, and now this. Look at this. This is just amazing. If you were in this, ladies and gentlemen, I congratulate you. I salute you. This is just I like Bitcoin Cash, but it kind of reminds me of one pair. I think, remember this thing that I said that some cryptos are going to be like stocks, like commodities, like currencies. So they will be kind of eventually maybe falling into those categories. But like I said, that some, like I said, I do see some as actually a real currency, like Tron, for example, right? Like it does look like a currency pair. It does behave like a currency pair. Bitcoin Cash, we can probably put it in the same category as a currency pair. Which pair is the most similar one to this one from the activity? I see it's EUROGBP. I don't like that pair. I really don't. I have a love and hate relationship with that one. I do not like. Let's put it this way. I do not like to trade it, but I do look at it. So it's, yeah. Don't judge. Ripple, let's jump into Ripple. Beautiful rebound from this 1.1990 zone. I talked about this, ladies and gentlemen. I actually also did a little piece here for our VIP clients, and yep, so far so good. This is rebounding nicely back up. Let's see what's gonna happen with this 2.06 area. If we're gonna jump and stay above it, then great. I'm gonna go for a larger correction back up. Ethereum, okay. We did drift lower, 2,600 and something. What? Low 2,621. Yep, we drifted lower. Almost came closer to testing my level here, but actually, how did I not see this? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think this is good. This was a good option here. This is, you don't see all these things all the time, to be honest. It's very difficult to keep an eye on all of the instruments, the high of the 3rd of July, that's where we found support, and I think that this is better to say that if we do clear this hurdle, then yes, I'm going to go lower. Litecoin is still looking quite bearish, to be honest. I do like Litecoin. It's like in the same category for me as Bitcoin Cash, which I like. Tron as well also. So Litecoin right now is trying to recover somewhat. Let's see if we can see a little bit of a recovery, but if it stays below the 90.30 zone somewhere here, then yeah, I'm going to consider another decline. Dogecoin, very quickly on Dogecoin, pushing higher, pushing back up. It had a good bouncy moment here, so yes, we're traveling back above the 0.1430 area right here. If we continue to trade above it, I'm leaning towards a larger correction back up. Polkadot. Now, this one fell below the 2.35 zone and stayed below it. So in a way, it's kind of actually showing some weakness, but certainly, let's not rush into things, okay? Let's see if we can, we can rebound back up here. If we can push and stay above the 2.35 area, then yes, I'm going to consider a larger correction back up. And finally, Tron, ladies and gentlemen, Tron, yes, the same story, 0.2764. I'm watching this very carefully. If we can climb back above it, I'm going to consider a move higher. I think at this point, this is what we're going to do. However, but if we do continue to trade below the low of the 5th of November, then which is this 0.2764, then yes, another decline could be possible. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I really hope you found it useful. I tried to be as quick as possible because, again, as always, there's a lot of information to go through. But hey, thank you. Please do like and subscribe, the usual stuff. It really helps us out, helps me out as well. And don't forget about the little webinar that I'm going to be doing on Wednesday. So, yep, you can register for this one. So you can find the link in the description below. But yeah, I hope to see you there. I hope to see you next on Wednesday as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, on Wednesday, apart from this webinar, in the morning I'll have my usual markets talk. So feel free to join that one as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.